Welcome back to complete our discussion talking about changing behaviors. Joining me again is Dr. Daniel Duffy, the Dean of the University of Oklahoma School of Community Medicine. Let's jump in. Now, we were talking about nicotine, and I think that that's a really good visual for people to remember who really should stop smoking or trying really hard to, that you're freebasing a drug. I want to jump into, and you were just saying that sometimes pretty frequently, the entry-level drug into other drug use tends to be nicotine. So there's people who are smoking and then they go a little bit further. Tell me a little bit about the other drug use and why people may say is from nicotine into the other drugs. I mean, if you're getting kind of the high as you're talking about in terms of relaxation and the stimulation, why would you want to go further? I mean, what's happening with the body? Is it starting to crave more and more?
Well, maybe a little bit, but probably it's the different kinds of experiences. Okay. So all of the other drugs, alcohol, marijuana, other drugs that some people use recreationally, all have a different effect on the brain and on how we feel. Okay. And so those different feelings are what we pursue. Now, where teenagers are particularly at risk is teenagers are wonderful creatures who have lots of feelings, and therefore the pursuit of those feelings is really a part of being a teenager and growing up. And that's one of the reasons there may be a particular risk for moving from nicotine to other kinds of drugs to experience the feelings, the mind alteration, and other things that happen. Okay. And any of them have this addicting quality. Some are much less addicting than others. And people can use them infrequently and not become addicted to them. Nicotine is singularly the most addicting drug.
So even with these other drugs, is it therefore more of a social component to it, why people may begin to dibble and dabble and progress further in it because of the socialization of it all?
Yeah, that's it, particularly with alcohol and somewhat with marijuana and others. There's a very strong social aspect to it. And it's being in the social group and sharing the experience and feeling the glow together is what's so attractive to it. And it's quite rewarding in and of itself. Most people experience the social aspect of it and don't go further. Those of us who become addicted actually want that feeling regardless of the social aspect of it. Okay. In fact, those that become most of us who become most addicted actually avoid the social situation to just use the drug. Okay. And so we have closet eaters, we have closet smokers, we have closet drinkers, we have people who the social is no longer the unifying feature. It's now the feeling from the drug.
Now let me ask this question, because you mentioned with eating that it may not be so much as an addictive genetic kind of component. With alcohol or other kind of drug use, is that have a little bit more maybe of a genetic component to it?
Yeah, the tendency to become addicted, we think, is a genetic component. In other words, the way our brains are structured, they respond to the drug in a way that if I don't get the drug, I feel bad. And that's what's called withdrawal. And I withdraw from the drug, and therefore the withdrawal stimulates more use, and more use. Ultimately, I can't get enough of the drug because the brain has readjusted, and I keep using it and using it and using it, looking for the good feeling, but it doesn't come anymore. Okay. At that point, someone is usually seriously addicted.
Now, when we look at these addictive behaviors or these choice behaviors, because like you said, not all are genetic necessarily, even though there's a component of addiction, how do we begin to sort of key into it internally that we do need to change behavior and begin to do that? I mean, sometimes people with the alcohol issue, a very small amount, and they can be way over the edge in terms of how they respond to things. They can't take several drinks. Exactly. I mean, so how do you key into, this is an area that I need to start looking at?
Well, the most important first step is developing awareness. Simply aware, oh my goodness, my use is out of control. I can't stop doing this when I want to. I can't limit it when I want to. That lets us know right away we are in trouble. We have got to do something about it. And the doing something about it, the brain is a wonderful organ. There's a part of the brain, which is in the front part of the brain, that actually can take control over those parts of the brain that just seek that pleasure.
Okay.
And that requires education, learning, and conditioning to make us not do what we crave doing and do something instead. And almost all behavior change is based on that principle. Grab hold of the front part of the brain.
Okay.
And have that front part of the brain begin to control the drives that are deeper in the brain that make us choose to keep using that particular drug.
Okay, I'm going to use it myself, use me as an example here of a behavior which could apply to any of these other kind of behaviors. Caffeine. Caffeine is a drug. Many people don't think of it, but it is. And it's plentiful in colas and things such as that. And I must admit that I will overdo the colas, and periodically I'll back up and say this is ridiculous because this is controlling me, and I can consume it to the point where I really get physically sick, and then I know you've had too much. So I have gone off of it and really have been decaffeinated, and then I'll gradually, and then I go through the headache and using the ibuprofen, and then I'm cool, but then I'll gradually get back on. Now, how can I, which can apply to these other behaviors as well, how do I strengthen my frontal lobe to be able to subdue that permanently? Because I can do it temporarily, but it seems like every 6 months or so, if I've been decaffeinated, I creep back on.
Pam, you've hit the nail on the head. All addiction, once we have an addiction, we never return to a state where we aren't addicted.
Okay.
All we can return to is a state of not using.
Okay.
Okay. And so you do that. You're able to do it when you get your mind on it, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to use caffeine. I'm going to choose something else to drink. Right.
Right.
And you choose something else to drink. Hopefully, that something else will not have caffeine, and your body will like it every bit as much. That's what we try to do. Substitute whatever the addicting behavior is with something else that's every bit as rewarding, but not giving you the bad effects of the addiction.
And so just finding that on a permanent basis, because especially, Doctor, when the drinks go on sale for the summer, and you can get a drink for 53 cents, it's like, yes! So I tend to struggle with that more during the summertime than I do the regular part of the year, but it's that enticement. So I have to key into that enticement and not succumbing to it because it's a sale.
Exactly. So we can use some of the same techniques that we use in getting addiction started. If you're in a social group that's agreed not to use caffeine, the social group will put peer pressure on not using the caffeine. So there are a number of techniques like that. We can talk about it some other time. Okay,
I will have to have you back because I'm out of time, but thank you so much, and I'm going to exercise that frontal lobe a little bit better. Thank you, Dr. Duffy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Well, that's our show. For Health Alert, I'm Pam Butler. I'd love to hear your questions, comments, or suggestions for future shows. Please write me at Health Alert USA, P.O. Box 50913, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74150. Or if you're on the email trail, please email me at healthalertusa@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit me on YouTube at youtube.com/HealthAlertUSA. Take care, and remember, exercise that frontal lobe because I'm there with you and we can do it. Take care. This program would not be possible without the support of OU Physicians in Tulsa.